The whole carbon sequestration thing is still somewhat of a mystery to the general public. You know, it's kind of an abstract idea. It's hard to explain to them how they could possibly benefit from it.
Climate change is an existential crisis, and if you look at all of the modeling in terms of when we're going to cross that 1.5 degree threshold, it's getting sooner and sooner every day.
I remember back when I was a young'un and grown up now, the world is changing, and climate control has a lot to do with it.
I think we're getting to a point where every job is going to have to be a climate job. So the way that we do, the way that we move is going to have to change in order for us to be here in the next few hundred years.
Fundamentally, I think everybody wants the same thing, which is low-cost energy on demand with the smallest possible carbon footprint.
What we hear are always the negative side. One project that didn't work, 5 projects that didn't work. But I think what we are missing really is to look at the positive side of the VCM.
This gentleman showed up one day in a big old Cadillac, and he had a license plate that said Oil Man on the back of it. And he come in and was talking to my mom and dad. He had them sign papers and everything and started drilling wells. He guaranteed them they'd get a barrel or they'd get so much gas they could use for their furnace. And he just went away and never came back for years.
So an orphaned well is a well where there is no longer any viable operator or responsible party.
There's 120,000 documented orphan wells in the United States, and those are just that we know about.
Methane is 84 times more potent than CO2 within a 20-year time frame, meaning it does all of its damage up front, and it's far more impactful than CO2.
The importance of non-CO2 gas a few years ago, we would say, when we started talking about, well, we need to go after these gases because it will buy us more time to take care of the large amounts of CO2 that are being released. Now we say, we need to go after these non-CO2 gases because there is no more time.
The person drilled the well and everything is responsible for cleanup afterwards. Well, that wasn't happening. And it's quite a common problem all over the United States.
This is a separator. So yeah, these are the remnants of an orphan oil and gas well that we plugged just down the way.
The idea that we are on this existential track here where climate change is about to run away from us, and we have a solution. We can offer this solution. It just feels criminal not to.
Voluntary carbon market is really the only mechanism that we have that can deliver money at scale to things that otherwise would go unfunded.
No one's going to just say, hey, let me go out and spend millions of dollars to go and plug in orphan oil and gas. A carbon credit helps to fill that gap. And in our work, these are things that otherwise wouldn't happen.
My mother is a chalker. That's her maiden name, and at one time the whole road was family, and now I think there are probably 3 families left.
When I first came here to work 30 years ago, there were 23 functioning dairy cattle operations. As of 3 years ago, there's not a single dairy in the county, but those families still have their land and they're still farming it, and that's what's the most important thing, is that they've stuck with it and it's still there.
We were kind of trying to think of ways that we could offset the cost of the property taxes. And so we threw out lots of ideas of livestock or solar panels.
If you got land, make it productive for you. If you don't make it productive, you're going to have a lot of expense.
I wanted to get back to more of a country setting with small towns and farming community and buy a little bit of land that the family could enjoy.
When Robert purchased it, the last family that owned it was farming it for peanuts.
A changed climate is both the biggest threat and the biggest opportunity. We work with landowners across the country to give them access to carbon markets and to help them generate income over the long term.
I'd had a good friend of mine in South Georgia that said, "You're gonna kill me. I gave you this man's phone number. I can't pronounce his name. I'm gonna text it to you." And he's gonna be calling about planting trees and open land or whatever. My second sentence to him was, "So you know I hate pine trees, right? So this might not work." We talked for a while, and I kind of, as he calls it, sussed him out because I'm very protective of my farmers, my group here.
I got prostate cancer, and my wife didn't want to have to deal with the livestock and everything. If I was going to do something, I needed it to pay the taxes. If it wasn't going to pay the taxes, I didn't need it.
The first thing I hear when I think of cattlemen is pride. I think of a proud farmer who is connected to his heritage and wants to keep it going.
One thing that's attractive to landowners about our program is the longevity that it can provide to the land and the continuation of that land within a family legacy.
I spend a lot of time with my grandma and my great-grandma, but this really is my only connection to my grandma.
We are essentially just leasing that land for that contract period. And then the landowner, at the end of that period, they benefit from the timber revenue. And they benefit from, that lease payment. There's carbon revenue that's generated from that payment.
We ain't here but so long. God, when he gets ready for you, you're going home. And you don't never know where that is, so you better be ready.
Addison is my daughter, who is 19. She's a nursing student in college now. And so as we're making plans for her future, I'd like to be at a point where when the timber is cut, I want this to provide for her in a way that serves her best.
One of the critiques of the voluntary carbon market is this notion that companies are using the voluntary carbon market as the cheap and easy way out. And the data backs us up that nothing could be further from the truth.
If we don't attach a dollar value to this information, to carbon, no one is going to value it. No one is going to do something about it.
Companies that are investing in the voluntary carbon market are the ones that are taking climate change most seriously. They're more likely to have a science-based target to reduce their own emissions. They're investing more in supplier engagement. They're investing more in decarbonizing their own operations. And they're also going above and beyond investing in the voluntary carbon market.
Our property that adjoins this is a fifth-generation property.
We've lived out here now for 62 years. It's a place to come away from regular life, jobs and neighbors, and just a space to restore.
We love to cook.
Eating boudin cracklings and cold beer on a hot afternoon in June.
The Arkansas River runs through here, and all this was just wilderness. It's really hard to make a living on this property that flood and it's just not a real good soil for growing crops.
Grandpa was a forester, and he could name any tree species if you just point at it. So I feel like it's in my blood to a degree.
We are a predominantly agricultural community here, but we've had a shift as of late into more climate-related projects.
So we had an opportunity to sell, so we took an opportunity, and Stephen actually went to work for Chestnut.
Philanthropy isn't a business strategy, so how do you take something like carbon renewable, carbon removal, or carbon investment and actually make it economic and profitable? As we looked across the space and we're trying to understand the cheapest way of removing carbon, what we concluded is that buying land, planting trees, storing the carbon in the tree is still the most cost-effective way of carbon removal in the industry today.
This is kind of a new thing, the carbon industry, and it's growing. And there's obviously a lot of concerns in the South.
In small town Arkansas, it's like small town America, there are some that probably do have some concerns about taking land out of agricultural use and putting it into timber, but we've sort of gone through that cycle over the years many times here locally.
With the reputation that my family nurtured through the years, they trust Stephen. They know when Stephen tells them something, it may be something that they don't really like all the time, but they trust Stephen and they know Stephen will go to bat for them.
There's a lot of people that maybe don't have access to the knowledge.
We may not all share the same vision about how much is about conservation, how much is about profitability.
So that's why we're planting a mix of faster growing and slower growing species to kind of blend not only biodiversity, but also to get some earlier carbon yields along with the later carbon yields.
But the more successful we are, the more economic we are, and the more profitable they are, the more land we can restore back to its native habitat, to the forest that so many of people in this country actually want to see, use, and be able to optimize over time.
We share the same principles in the preservation of our forest land. It's an added plus that they are improving the climate regime.
So I have 3 grandchildren now, and I want them to be able to enjoy the outdoors and take them in a boat and go fishing, or take them deer hunting or squirrel hunting, or just take them outside to look at birds.
I think what we want people to focus on is, this is an existential threat. What can I do that helps make things better? And when I look at a carbon credit that is permanent and additional, it's not going to happen unless a company goes out and does it.
You know, when we first got involved in carbon, we sort of thought of it in a very highly technical sense, right? You do certain actions in the woods and the trees would respond a certain way. You'd calculate all that using science and methodologies, but we've come to understand that at its core, a carbon project is about changing human behavior.
Marvin, if you don't mind me asking, what brought you around?
The way y'all explained it to me, I couldn't keep on doing what I was doing, so it was a no-brainer. I'm not hard to get along with if you treat me right.
I'm surprised at how smooth they did it. I figured there was going to be some really gouges in the dirt and everything like this, and I go, oh, this is going to be a mess. Looks pretty good, considering it looked better than before when the well was there.
The funds that come from the planting of the trees will help us have the revenue to tear down an old farmhouse that's here on the property and build a new place for the family to enjoy. My son is making plans to move up here now.
I would love to see the look on Robert's face when I come out here 15 years from now and he says, you know, wow, this is really something compared to a bare peanut field.
There's plenty of room out here for a grandson to ride a four-wheeler, so, you know.
What's going to affect the survivability and the health of these trees, and what special plants might be growing in there, which in turn affects the kinds of bugs and pollinators, which in turn affect the kind of birds and small mammals. All of these things are connected, and it all starts with the soil. So that really is why I love dirt.
I'll say for me personally, as an African American growing up, hearing about environmentalism wasn't something that was really talked about in the community in that way, but being able to preserve what we have and to be able to use things responsibly was. But now you have this opening of the conversation where, again, all of these actions are climate action, and bringing everyone to the table, make sure everyone has a seat, everyone has a say, is really what I think is going to save us.
Being in the agricultural world, you know, it's not for the faint of heart. It certainly is not for anybody that's gonna easily quit. So, you know, anybody that's not a quitter, I'm partial to.
Likewise.
There won't be a tree cut other than some firewood. It's just to use and to enjoy and be able to just relax. Just enjoy Mother Nature. She's beautiful.